Jack Roland Murphy, Murph the Surf, Glamour, Glass and the Cost of a Legend, October 29, 1964. On New York's Upper West Side, the American Museum of Natural History sleeps like a cathedral. Inside, a star sapphire, the size of a child's palm, glows with its own weather, the 563-carat Star of India. Alarms are supposed to stand guard. Doors are supposed to mean something. Before dawn, the cases are empty. Headlines will scream. Detectives will swear. A country will meet its most cinematic thief in a single tabloid nickname. Murph the Surf. His real name is Jack Roland Murphy. Surfer, showman, violin prodigy as a boy, jewel thief by choice, and later, a convicted murderer who tries to trade fame for faith. A life so bright, you forget to ask where the shadows are coming from. A star gone missing, a city stirred, a legend born on borrowed word. To understand the night the Star of India went walking, you start where a boy learns to dance with water and chase applause. Early life and background. The making of Murph. Jack Roland Murphy was born in 1937 in California, raised within earshot of the ocean. The sea taught him movement. Music taught him poise. As a boy, he played the violin well enough to win prizes, and as a teen, he pushed his body into the blunt poetry of surf. He moved east, Florida sun, Miami Beach neon, and found an identity with salt in it. He surfed at dawn, taught lessons, lifeguarded, hustled gigs. The nickname arrived the way good nicknames do. Obvious. Murph the Surf. He dated starlets, charmed tourists, posed for photos. He was a varsity of a different kind, enough talent to make it look easy, enough hunger to need the crowd. There was talk of a tennis scholarship, of a musician's path, roads he could have taken. But Miami sold another dream. Live fast, dress sharp, make money the way stories do. In jumps, not steps. Surf notebooks turned into phone books. Friends turned into crews. A talent for timing turned toward doors that opened without keys. He learned the rhythm waves can teach, then hunted it beyond the beach. The ocean keeps its own calendar. So do the courts. Struggles and failures. The edge isn't a home. Before the sapphire glowed under headlines, there were smaller stumbles, misread rooms, overconfident nights, arrests that didn't make the front page. The life he was choosing had its curriculum. How to case a place without leaving a fingerprint of attention. How to separate craft from chaos. How to keep a team from becoming a crowd. He learned that adrenaline isn't a plan, that winging it is a synonym for losing. At Crew's break, where egos begin, he saw friends flash hot and fall hard. He learned to value patience, rehearsal, and a strange kind of courtesy. Don't point guns you don't plan to fire. Better, don't bring guns at all. A quiet job invites less heat than a loud one. But discipline was a suit he wore, not a skin he grew. The hunger remained for drama, for trophies, for a story so clean it could pass for destiny. The high was high, the floor was near. He learned to smile and hide the fear. Then came a plot pulled from a paperback and rewritten under real lights. The turning point, stars, Ruby, midnight, the heist that named him the American Museum of Natural History, a target that felt like a dare. In the J.P. Morgan Hall of Gems and Minerals, temptation sat under glare and glass, with associates whose names the papers would also learn. Alan Kuhn, Roger Clark. Murphy pushed his life across a line. This is a documentary, not a manual. No step-by-step, no tricks. The point isn't how, it's why, and what it cost. By morning, the hall would be a roll call of headlines. The Star of India, 563 carats, blue as a drowned sky. The DeLong Star Ruby, over 100 carats, blood with a star in it. The Midnight Star, black sapphire that drank light. The value in 1964 dollars ran into hundreds of thousands, millions today. The value in stories became incalculable. The job was clean. It made everyone look soft. Locks, guards. The idea that public treasures are safe just because we love them. Cops did what cops do. Followed chatter. Checked fences. Watched the ones who liked cameras too much. Within days, arrests landed in Miami. The Star of India turned up in a bus station locker. The Midnight Star was recovered. The DeLong Ruby came home after a Florida businessman reportedly paid a $25,000 ransom and found it in a phone booth. A twist so theatrical it made real life look cast. Murphy and his co-defendants pled guilty in New York. Sentences were measured in years, light compared to the brightness of the crime. Murph walked into prison with a smirk and out with something worse, a taste for notoriety. He touched a star and burned his name, then learned the price of borrowed fame. From there, the arc could have bent toward quieter rooms. It didn't. Rise and ruin. When the cameras come calling, Murph the Surf wasn't just a nickname anymore. It was a brand. In 1975, it became a movie title. Murph the Surf, also known as Live a Little, Steal a Lot, polished just enough to forget the fingerprints. He was the handsome thief, the surfer turned jewel jack, the kind of American outlaw narrative that sells popcorn to the parts of us that still love cowboys. He leaned into the attention. He told stories. He shortened edges. He embodied the paradox, charm that floats, gravity that waits. Under the lights, you don't see what the dark is doing. Then, Florida wrote a chapter no studio would touch. The Dock Turn, Whiskey Creek. In 1967, the bodies of two young women, Terry Ray Frank and Anna Maria Pineda, were found in Whiskey Creek near Fort Lauderdale. They'd been beaten. The crime ripped the glitter off the legend. Jack Roland Murphy, along with accomplices, was arrested, tried, and convicted of first-degree murder. The details are raw. The pain belongs to families whose names should be honored by restraint, not retold for thrill. The sentence was life. The arc was broken. Whatever the museum heist had done to his image, Whiskey Creek did to his soul, grounded against the stone of consequence. The water kept a secret's weight, then told the world and sealed the fate. Prison is a long, hard mirror. Some men learn to look away. He didn't. Ideological battles, faith, time, and a fight with himself. Behind bars, the showman shed an audience and met a congregation. Murphy became born again, an evangelist within the seams of the system. He organized Bible studies, played violin in services, spoke with other inmates about ruin and repair. Critics will say prison conversions are convenient. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they aren't. What matters is persistence. He kept at it for years. He began to speak not as a scoundrel proud of scoundrel tricks, but as a cautionary tale who thought he'd found a compass. He preached that skill without purpose is a loaded dice, that fame isn't forgiveness, that discipline can build or break depending on where you point it. He fought the state earlier. Now he fought himself. In 1986, after roughly 2 decades behind bars, Florida paroled him. He traveled as a prison minister, spoke to youth, visited lockups to say the one true thing every cautionary tale can truthfully say: don't be me. He learned a harder kind of art, to tune a mind, then tune a heart. Quotes don't make a man, but some lines show the weather inside him. The voice of Murph. He left fewer one-liners than legends suggest, and many versions are paraphrased. Treat these as attributed, lines he said in interviews and testimonies over the years. The spirit checked against multiple tellings. We were high on success and low on brains. His summary of the museum heist years later, bragging stripped to bluntness. The thrill was real, so was the stupidity. Prison didn't save me. God did. Testimony from his prison ministry life. He framed his change as spiritual, not situational. If you're looking for glamour in this, you're looking the wrong way. A recurring theme in talks, pushing back on the movie sheen, reminding audiences that he wasn't a character, but a caution. These are the lines of a man who had learned to talk to rooms instead of juries. They don't cancel what he did. They try to reckon with it. A line can't launder what you've done, but sometimes tells where you've begun. The fights he faced weren't duels. They were systems and the stubborn math of consequence. Fights, battles, rivalries, law, press, and the mirror. In New York, his opponent was the NYPD and a museum stunned into better locks. In Florida, it was the state itself, the prosecution's patience against a defendant who once treated speed as strategy. After parole, his struggle was credit versus character. Journalists wanting the caper legend, he wanted the ministry, man to speak. There were critiques. Victims' families questioned granting him a platform. Writers challenged prison conversion narratives. Old criminal associates handed out competing versions of who planned what and why. He lived with it, traveled with it, tried to outwork it one chapel talk at a time. He spoke of surfing again, a metaphor now. Balance, timing, learning when to stand up and when to fall safely. Murph the Surf became, in his telling, a lesson on how a wave can hide a rock. The tide forgets each footprint's shape. The past does not. It doesn't drape. So what remains? A star returned, a myth debated, a warning amplified. Impact and society, security, cinema, and the cost of shine. The museum heist had consequences beyond headlines. Institutions fortified, better alarms, better battery discipline, fewer assumptions that beauty protects itself. Insurance firms recalibrated risk. Curators revised procedures. The American Museum recovered the Star of India and the Midnight Star, and mercifully learned. Culture kept the story alive. The 1975 film lacquered a caper with charisma. Later documentaries, most recently Murph the Surf, Jewels, Jesus, and Mayhem in the USA, peeled the lacquer back, showing both the seduction and the stain. If the heist proved how fragile our trust can be, the murders proved how quickly the thrill curdles into tragedy and how none of it deserves romance. His ministry work had its own echo, thousands of inmates hearing a version of redemption from a man who'd once chased infamy and found it empty. Detractors called it a second act written for image. Supporters called it a different man. A sapphire's glow, a mother's grief. Weigh both before you call it thief. All stories end. Some close like a safe. Others fade like a broadcast you can still hear if you lean. Legacy, death, and the last word. Jack Roland Murphy died in 2020 at 83. The obituaries split the man in two. The jewel thief who turned a museum into a headline, and the lifer who turned a chapel into a pulpit. The families who lost daughters never got them back. The museum got its stars. The state got its time. He got his last decade on the outside, speaking the way men do when they know their own file is thick. So what do we say at the end? That charisma can be a costume. That discipline without a compass is just a sharper knife. That a single night can brand a lifetime, and a single creak can crush it. That our culture's love of clever thieves is a mirror we should check twice before we smile into. A wave, a wall, a borrowed light. He rode the first and hit the night. Ending. Picture the Gem Hall in 1964. Blue fire in a glass cathedral. Picture Whiskey Creek in 1967. Water closing over a terrible truth. Picture a prison chapel in 1980. An older man with a violin and a warning. 3 images, 1 life. A lesson we shouldn't need, but do. Don't confuse elegance with innocence. Don't mistake a star for north. And don't wait for stone and steel to teach you what right and wrong already know. Let the final word belong to the version of him that tried to speak plainly from the far side of ruin, attributed, repeated, and in the end, the only line that matters: we were high on success and low on brains.